You know the burnout, you know the quiet quitting, you definitely know the hustle culture. But there is another state just as pervasive, just as draining that we almost never name. If you've ever felt a deep cellular exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix, a tiredness that feels like a moral failure, you've likely brushed against it. It's not in your schedule, it's in your nervous system. We call it being busy. But that's just the broadcast. The internal signal is something else entirely. It begins with a simple modern equation. Your worth is your output. Your peace is a reward for completion. You learn this not from a mission statement, but from the rhythm of the world itself. Emails that never sleep. Notifications that pulse like a heartbeat. The silent collective agreement that to be still is to be falling behind. So you build a life of motion. You optimize. You stack tasks like bricks, building a wall against the vague, looming fear of insufficiency. You are productive. You are reliable. You are moving. And for a while the math works. Effort equals validation. Output equals identity. The system confirms you. But then a subtle shift. The tiredness arrives, but it's a different species. It's not in your muscles, it's behind your eyes. It's a low-grade hum in your bones, a static that makes the world feel slightly out of focus. You try the old fixes. More sleep, better food, a vacation. You return. The static remains. This is the first whisper of the real condition. It's not burnout that implies a fire that once burned bright. This is something quieter, more insidious. It's ***, system overload ***. The feeling that your very internal architecture, the circuitry that runs times you times, is running a program it was never designed to sustain. Your mind isn't tired of work. It's tired of being an instrument. Your body isn't craving rest. It's craving sovereignty. We misread the signals. We see the procrastination, the lack of motivation, the inexplicable irritability, and we call it laziness. We gaslight ourselves into believing we've lost our drive, but that's not what's happening. What looks like resistance is often preservation, The psyche, pushed beyond its capacity for perpetual performance, begins to enact its own safety protocols. It slows down, it buffers, it creates friction. It's not sabotaging you, it's trying to save you. The mind in its ancient wisdom is forcing a recalibration. It is lowering the throttle because you, in your modern ambition, have forgotten how. The exhaustion isn't the problem, it's the final, desperate message. You are not lazy, you are not falling behind. You are a human being silently negotiating a treaty with the machine of your own making. The fatigue is the white flag. The stillness you resist is the only door out. This is where the real work begins. Not in doing more, but in listening to what the exhaustion has been trying to say all along. It's not telling you to stop forever. It's asking you to remember what you are for. You know the feeling of finally getting what you wanted, the promotion, the title, the validation you've been chasing for years. The system finally blinks green and says, you are correct. For a moment it's pure oxygen. You can breathe. This is the promise we're sold, that external confirmation will silence the internal question. That the right achievement will finally be the key that fits the lock of your own uncertainty. You spend years crafting the output, the perfect performance, the impeccable resume, the reliable persona, so that the world will return the correct input approval. Security, identity, it's a clean equation. Output equals identity. The system confirms you, and for a while it works. You build your life around this fort. The fort of your accomplishments. Its walls are your job title, your salary bracket, the respect in your colleagues' voices, the weight of your responsibilities. Inside you feel legitimate, real. The world's recognition becomes the mortar, holding the stones of your self-concept together. You are not just a person. You are a verified times person. But a fort is a static thing. It's designed to withstand, not to expand. And the self is not static. It whispers. It grows. The first crack isn't a catastrophe. It's a quiet, almost polite sense of dissonance. You're standing in your fort, looking at the solid walls, but you feel a draft. You achieve the next goal, the system confirms you again, but the echo of the validation feels shorter, hollow. The yes from the outside world lands, but inside there's no answering chime. You start to feel like a curator of your own museum, polishing achievements that feel increasingly like artifacts from someone else's life. The output is flawless, but the person creating it feels like a ghost. This is the plot twist, the quiet psychological betrayal we never see coming. ***. The very fort you built for safety becomes the architecture of your confinement. ***. The system was never meant to tell you who you are. It was only ever designed to tell you if you fit. And in your relentless, desperate focus on fitting, on being confirmed, approved, validated, you outsource the most sacred task of a human life, the ongoing, messy, personal creation of your own meaning. You confused alignment with identity. You mistook the map for the terrain. The exhaustion that follows isn't from building the fort. It's from living in a structure that has no room for your shadow, your quiet curiosities, your unproductive joys, your changing shape. The walls that keep the world out also keep you times in. You are safe and you are starving. So the psyche in its profound intelligence begins a silent revolt. It's not self-sabotage, it's *** reclamation ***. The procrastination on the important project. That's your soul pulling energy away from a task that feeds the fort but not the spirit. The sudden, inexplicable craving to learn something useless, to walk without a destination, to stare out a window. That's the inner self, long silence, testing its voice. The irritation with the very systems you've mastered. That's a deep biological rejection of a life lived as a feedback loop. You are not breaking down. You are waking up. The system was asking, are you correct? And you trained yourself to answer yes. But your soul is asking a different question. Are you alive? And for the first time in a long time, you're silent. Because you don't know. The healing doesn't begin with a grand departure. It begins in the drafty corners of your own fort. It starts when you do something that has no output, no metric, no chance of validation. You follow a thread of curiosity for no reason. You say a no that protects a fragile inner yes. You allow yourself to be bad at something new. You sit with the terrifying, liberating silence that comes when you stop performing for the system's approval. You are not dismantling your life. You are poking holes in the walls to let the light in. You begin the slow, tender work of ***, disentangling your worth from your utility ***. You are not your output. Your identity is not a verdict to be delivered by an external court. It is a song you are always composing with notes of memory, desire, grief, and love that no system can ever quantify or confirm. The fort was never your identity. It was just a project. A very good, very impressive project. But you are the artist. And the artist must eventually leave the gallery and go back into the messy, uncertain, beautiful world to feel again. Validation is a closed loop. Aliveness is an open sky. You are not here to be confirmed. You are here to be ***. Part 3. The Fort and the Sky ***. You've built the fort. You've studied its blueprints, reinforced its walls, mastered its alarms. You are safe, correct, and seen. So why does the air inside feel so thin? What you're experiencing isn't a malfunction. It's a mutiny. A quiet cellular rebellion against a life of flawless feedback. The system you perfected was designed for efficiency, not for breadth. It rewards clarity and punishes ambiguity. It loves a straight line and distrusts a circle. And for years you complied. You traded the sprawling, messy field of your own potential for the clean, well-lit room of your competence. But the soul doesn't speak the language of metrics. It speaks in whispers, aches, and inconvenient longings. That heavy resistance you feel toward the next logical step on your meticulously planned path. That's not laziness, it's integrity. It's your entire being applying the brakes because it recognizes the cliff. You can't yet see the cliff of total self-erasure. The profound exhaustion after a day of ticking boxes isn't fatigue, it's grief. You are mourning the version of you that got left outside the walls, the one who knew how to get lost, to want strangely, to fail interestingly. The procrastination, the sudden obsession with the useless skill, the desire to wander with no destination. These aren't distractions, they are dispatches. They are evidence of a surviving self sending up flares from the exile you agreed to. That project you're avoiding, it likely feeds the fort's legend, but it starves the spirit. That frivolous hobby, it's a secret tunnel out of the fortress. Every time you choose the curious question over the correct answer, you are not being unproductive. You are conducting a prisoner exchange. You are trading a piece of your performed identity for a piece of your forgotten one. The system trained you to ask one question of yourself. Is this optimal? But your awakening begins when you hear a different, older question rising from within. Is this alive? And the silence that follows is not empty. It is full. It is the sound of an old program crashing, making room for a new, unfamiliar, and terrifyingly beautiful operating system to boot up. The reclamation doesn't start with burning the fort down. It starts with opening a window. It begins in the smallest act of insubordination against the internal regime. You follow a thread of curiosity for no reason other than its texture. You protect a fragile inner yes with a firm external no. You allow yourself to be gloriously, embarrassingly bad at something new. You sit in the middle of a perfectly good day and do nothing of value. You listen to the silence you've been running from, and you discover it's not silent at all, it's humming with your own unattended thoughts. You are not sabotaging your success. You are poking holes in the ceiling to remember the sky. This is the slow, sacred work of ***, disentangling your worth from your utility, ***. You learn nerve by nerve that you are not your output. Your value is not a fluctuating stock price based on yesterday's performance. Your identity is not a final report to be filed. It is a living language spoken in the dialect of your childhood. Wonder, your quiet griefs, your irrational loves, and your stubborn joys. No system can translate it. No metric can capture its melody. The fort was an incredible achievement, a masterpiece of adaptation. But you are always the artist. And the artist cannot live forever inside the museum of their own past work. The canvas is out there in the uncertain, uncurated, breathtaking world, where you are not a validated product but a breathing question, where you are not here to be confirmed. You are here to be, the overachiever, the burnout, the person who seems to have it all yet moves through their life with the quiet, precise desperation of a ghost in a machine. But there is another kind of person, one who built the machine they live inside. One whose greatest creation is a seamless, high-performance identity engineered for flawless execution. If you've spent years optimizing your life, you know the peculiar silence of a goal achieved. The trophy room is full, but the air is still. You stand there perfect and polished, and feel a quiet, unnameable grief for the person you had to leave behind at the door. This is not about success or failure. It is about architecture. From the outside, your life is a monument to competence. You learned early that love was conditional on performance, that safety was a reward for being useful. You mapped the emotional landscape of your childhood and found the safe paths, the right answers, the impeccable behavior, the achievements that finally made the adults nod in approval. You weren't just learning skills, you were learning a survival algorithm. Your personality became a finely tuned instrument, calibrated to predict need and meet expectation. You became an expert in reading rooms, in delivering exactly what was required, in becoming the missing piece in other people's puzzles. Your worth became a function of your utility, your identity a portfolio of proven competencies. It was an act of genius, a masterpiece of adaptation. But a masterpiece once finished is static, and you are not finished, you are alive. The first crack is not a crisis, it is a quiet noticing. It's the Sunday afternoon where all tasks are complete, and a profound emptiness descends not as sadness but as a silent question. It's the compliment that lands like a weight, binding you further to a version of yourself you no longer recognize. It's the hobby you approach not with joy but with a business plan. It's the feeling that you are the most convincing actor in a play whose script you've memorized but whose meaning you've forgotten. This is the system's gentle failure. The algorithm of your constructed self has run its course. It optimized for external validation, for security, for flawless execution, and it succeeded, brilliantly. But the program was never coded for aliveness. It was never meant to process the raw, uncurated data of your own undesiring. You feel a nostalgia not for a pastime, but for a pastimes you asterisk. The one who could be messy, the one who could want something foolish, the one who could fail without interpreting it as a moral collapse. The awakening doesn't begin with a grand rebellion, it begins with a glitch. A stubborn, irrational no rises in your throat when you're asked to perform yet another familiar role. A fragment of a forgotten song returns for no reason. You waste an hour. You follow a curiosity that leads nowhere profitable. You feel a pang of envy not for someone's success, but for their obvious, unself-conscious joy. In these moments, you are not breaking down. You are receiving a signal, a faint broadcast from a self you thought was decommissioned. It is the part of you that was deemed non-essential to the mission of becoming optimal. The sentimental part, the slow part, the part that loves poorly rated movies and has no desire to network. The system you built would label this signal a threat, a deviation from the optimal path. But what if it's not a threat? What if it's a homing beacon? Here is the plot twist, a quiet earthquake. Asterisk, asterisk. You were never the machine, you were the resource. Asterisk, asterisk. The high-functioning identity you built was not you. It was a management system you developed to process the raw material of times you, times your time, your energy, your attention, your love, into acceptable, secure, validated outputs. You became the CEO, the foreman, and the quality control inspector of your own soul. You learned to commodify your own humanity, The grief you feel is not for a lost childhood. It is for the living, breathing, raw material that has been consistently sacrificed on the altar of efficiency. You miss times, you asterisk. Not a younger you, but the essential, unprocessed, unoptimized core that was always there, silenced beneath the roar of productivity. The moment of realization is not dramatic. It is a devastating simplicity. You look at the impeccable life you've built, and you think, this is a perfect container. But I am not the contents. I am the thing that overflowed a long time ago and learned to live in the cracks. The reclamation is not an explosion. It is a repatriation. It starts when you stop asking, is this efficient, and dare to ask the more dangerous ancient question, is this alive? You trade a piece of your performed identity for a piece of your forgotten one. You protect a fragile inner yes with a firm external no. You allow yourself to be gloriously, embarrassingly bad at something new. You sit in the quiet and listen, not for instructions but for inclinations. You are not sabotaging your success. You are conducting a quiet audit of your own spirit. You are learning synapse by synapse that your value is not a fluctuating stock price. Your identity is not a final report. It is a living language spoken in the dialect of your irrational wonders, your quiet rebellions, your stubborn loves. No system can translate it. No metric can capture its melody. The machine you built was an incredible achievement, a fortress against uncertainty. But you were always the wild country the fortress was built to keep out. The fortress kept you safe. But now it's time to remember the sky. You are not here to be validated. You are here to be. And that is the most radical, unoptimized, and terrifyingly beautiful performance of all. Asterisk, asterisk. Part 5. The architect of the ghost, asterisk, asterisk. You became the CEO, the foreman, and the quality control inspector of your own soul. You learned to commodify your own humanity. The grief you feel is not for a lost childhood. It is for the living, breathing, raw material that has been consistently sacrificed on the altar of efficiency. You miss times, you asterisk. Not a younger you, but the essential, unprocessed, unoptimized core that was always there, silenced beneath the roar of productivity. The moment of realization is not dramatic. It is a devastating simplicity. You look at the impeccable life you've built, and you think, this is a perfect container. But I am not the contents. I am the thing that overflowed a long time ago and learned to live in the cracks. The reclamation is not an explosion. It is a repatriation. It starts when you stop asking, is this efficient? And dare to ask the more dangerous ancient question, is this alive? You trade a piece of your performed identity for a piece of your forgotten one. You protect a fragile inner yes with a firm external no. You allow yourself to be gloriously, embarrassingly bad at something new. You sit in the quiet and listen, not for instructions, but for inclinations. You are not sabotaging your success. You are conducting a quiet audit of your own spirit. You are learning synapse by synapse that your value is not a fluctuating stock price. Your identity is not a final report. It is a living language spoken in the dialect of your irrational wonders, your quiet rebellions, your stubborn loves. No system can translate it. No metric can capture its melody. The machine you built was an incredible achievement, a fortress against uncertainty. But you were always the wild country the fortress was built to keep out. The fortress kept you safe. But now it's time to remember the sky. You are not here to be validated. You are here to be. And that is the most radical, unoptimized, and terrifyingly beautiful performance of all.